Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show is brought to you by DKI Canada. Across the street, across the country. You want to talk about great bloodlines? His grandfather was Bernie Boom Boom Geoffrion. His grandmother was the daughter of Howie Morenz. His father played for the Montreal Canadiens. He played for the Montreal Canadiens. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. Coming up! Yes, we are talking about legacy on ice. First of all, introducing born in Florida, raised in Tennessee. His great-grandfather was Howie Morenz. His grandfather was Bernie Boom Boom Geoffrion. His dad was Danny, a first-round draft pick by the Montreal Canadiens. He won gold at the World Under-18 Championships. He won silver at the World Junior Championship. He starred at the University of Wisconsin for 4 years, where he was captain, and he won the Hobey Baker Award as a top player in the NCAA. He played in the NHL for Nashville and Montreal. He suffered a career-ending head injury. Welcome to the program, Blake Geoffrion, and from Seattle, University of Wisconsin graduate, a freelance author, journalist, communicator. He has written for Sports Business Journal, Sports Classic Magazine, the Seattle Times. He is author of Legacy on Ice, Blake Geoffrion, and The Fastest Game on Earth, Sam Jefferies. Guys, welcome to the program. Thanks for taking this time to join us. Awesome to see you.
Totally. Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
So, first of all, I want to just finished reading the book a little while ago, and Legacy on Ice, Blake Geoffrion, and The Fastest Game on Earth. Amazing book. Loved it. As I mentioned to you, Sam, before we got on, a lot of meat on this bone. What prompted you to write this book, first of all?
Yeah, well, I had gone to University of Wisconsin with Blake. I was there during 3 of his 4 seasons, including the national championship run in 2010 and year he won the Hobey Baker Award, and had a personal connection to the Wisconsin hockey program and Badger Bob Johnson from back in the 70s. And always thought there was an incredible story here. A lot to be told, and then the more I dug into it, the more I found out that I didn't know half of it. That it got better. That getting to know Blake and his family and his story, and then finding out really how his story is in many ways the story of North American hockey. Everything from the origins of the NHL and Howie Morenz, all the way through to today in the national team development program and the unbelievable rivalry that has come up through the World Juniors and the IIHF tournaments, and then the role that the CBA and changes at the pro level have an effect all the way down the chain, down to NCAA and beyond. So I thought it deserved a book, and here we are all those years later.
So, Blake, when Sam approached you with this idea for the book, was there any trepidation on your part, or were you just gung-ho, let's do it all the way?
No, I mean, look, in full transparency, I was kind of like, who is this guy? Why does he want to write a story about me? And there's a million other more interesting stories, in my opinion. Sam disagreed. We were able to meet and kind of get the rundown of kind of his thoughts and ideologies and as to who, what, when, where, why. And I think that was kind of the first thing. And then the second thing was, I'm a guy, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to try to give it my best effort. And so I was like, all right, look, write me a chapter. Let me see what kind of style of writing you have and make sure and kind of validate kind of him as a writer a little bit, as well as, reading some other articles that he had written previously. And I think after that, I was like, man, this is awesome. I was like, let's do this. And Sam did a great job writing the book. It's, we didn't really want it to make it a cliche, biography. And I think the way that Sam wrote the book intertwines my story throughout the history of hockey, the expansion of hockey, the history of hockey, the expansion into the South, et cetera, is a really, really cool way to write it. And his style of writing is super interesting. In full transparency, my motto in life is, why read a book when there's a movie? Sorry, Sam. uh, I will tell you, I finished the book in like under an hour and a half, or under an hour, I think it was. I mean, it was my own story, but it was a page turner just because of the way that he wrote it. It was entertaining. It was funny. It was sad. It was tragic. It has every emotion in there, but the way that he describes, you can really relate. And so I was super happy how it turned out. And I think, Sam did a great job.
Yeah, it definitely was a page turner, and I don't see why there wouldn't be a movie. Really,
Exactly.
a movie should
We'll
be
work on
made.
that for Blake next year. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, sell those rights. Okay, so let's go back to let's talk about the history. First of all, your grandfather, the great Howie Morenz. Let's start there. First of all, Sam, why don't you tell us who was Howie Morenz?
Yeah, Howie Morenz, the Stratford Streak, I mean, really came up through the railway teams in the early 20th century and became hockey's first great superstar. Went to play for the Habs and was, innovative player. I mean, had a speed and a breakout ability that just, was unprecedented and really changed the game. I mean, in the horrible sports world cliche, he's referred to as the Babe Ruth of hockey, which is, probably does him a disservice, but I think does speak to hockey was different from before he started to play and after he left. And then he really did leave too soon. He was injured in a game in which his skate ended up wedged into the boards and he was hit from behind and his leg was essentially shattered and he died after a couple months in the hospital. And the first NHL All-Star game was actually a benefit for his family, for the Morenz family, who had survived him and obviously continues to this day. But I think a top 100 player, a guy who's in the rafters at the Bell Center and somebody who really has, a place in that iconic moment of the guys who really shaped the game very early on.
Yeah, his career ended very tragically. Prior to that, though, we're talking about three times he won the Hart Trophy as best player in the NHL. 3 times he won the Art Ross Trophy for leading scorer. So an incredible player. So, it's sort of ironic, I guess, in a tragic kind of way that they both Blake and Howie, their career ended because of an injury on the ice in Montreal, and that was something that sort of I got as it weaved its way through the book. But so okay, Blake, your grandfather was Bernie Boom Boom Geoffrion, who of course you knew. And what do you remember about your grandfather? And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Paps was. I knew Pappy as my grandfather, right? And the way I would describe Pappy is he just had that aura about him that you knew he was kind of a big deal, and of course he wasn't afraid to tell you that. He just had this aura about him where he could walk into a room and really grab the attention of everyone. Everyone wanted to always be around him. He was a great storyteller, very outgoing guy, absolutely hilarious, the one story I love to tell about Pappy, and I remember is when I was a little kid, I was shooting pucks in the backyard. I had to have been like 8 to 10 years old, somewhere in there. And I was shooting pucks, and he comes out, and he grabs my stick, which couldn't have been, that tall. And he was a righty, I was a lefty. And he turns it over, and he takes a slap shot at the net, misses the net, hits our but I remember the vision, like the perfect saucer, like slap shot, misses the net, goes over and puts a hole in our fence. And him and my dad, he looks at me and goes, "That's how you shoot the puck." And my dad came running out, "Hey, Dad, I just replaced that fence." And I'll never forget that. When Pappy passed and we got the fence redone, we actually kept a couple boards where he put the hole in it. But yeah, Pappy was a great dude. He was hilarious. The stories, I mean, I hear stories about him till this day from just a bunch of random people that I run into that knew him really well. And I wish everyone could have met him because he was just a really funny person and just fun to be around.
Tell us about Sam, about his on ice exploits. Tell us about Boom Boom and some of the history there.
Yeah, I mean, to depends on who you ask, but Boom Boom is either the inventor or the popularizer of the slap shot. And, talking about bloodlines and changing the game, it's hard to see that and not, think about a guy who became an icon in the era and, won so many Stanley Cups with those great Habs teams, especially in that core run in the 1960s. And, playing with Maurice Richard, I think, was both a blessing and a curse. I mean, an incredible story and legacy of on ice success, but then also the burden of having to follow the rocket, really. And the year that Boom Boom won the Hart, he is as Quebecois as they come, and yet Richard had been suspended after the riot that really
Right.
tore apart downtown Montreal and the Richard riot, and while he was suspended, Boom Boom won the Hart, and he was booed for that, and I think it was really the ultimate statement of the difficulty of playing in Montreal. I mean, Blake got to learn it firsthand all those years later, but for his grandfather, truly knowing and understanding, and then passing on that knowledge to his son and his grandson, that Montreal, that birthplace of hockey, is a bigger stage, and you play on it, and you accept that when you do, and you can, there are no higher highs than that. But you can pay a huge price for it too.
Yeah, Montreal's a tough place to play. Still is, always will be. But when you have success there, and it's there's probably no other place you'd rather be. Um, but let's talk about your dad, Danny, former first round pick by the Habs. Um, give us Sam. First of all, give us a little bit about Danny's story, hockey wise.
Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry.
Seriously, yeah.
Yeah. So, I think Danny's story is a little bit of really an illustration of that burden too, of coming up in a great hockey family, which is an amazing thing because you have the athleticism, of your father, in this case of Boom Boom Geoffrion, and you get to grow up around the game, and but then you go off. Your dad goes one way and you go another, and Danny goes off to play, juniors and really make his own name for himself in in the junior ranks, and Boom Boom's off winning Stanley Cups and then going to coach in the NHL, and Danny gets drafted in WHA, and then Habs have his rights in the NHL. He comes back to the Habs, and they announced that his father's taking over as coach a week later. And these were two guys who, had not spent the time together that other fathers and sons had, right? It's the life of a pro hockey player and the life of a soon-to-be pro hockey player. And so they're really thrust into the biggest stage, right at the end of the 70s, and yet another decade of dominance by Montreal. And Danny's hanging out with his father, and Bernie is hanging out with his son, and both doing their best not to show favoritism or anything like that. And again, back on that stage, back on the Montreal stage, where it's the old line, when you suck in Montreal, you suck in two languages. And so that was that was a really, really difficult thing for Danny, and honestly, some of my favorite moments researching this book, we're talking about Blake's dad, who is himself a larger than life guy with a great storytelling capability, and the French Canadian dad jokes for days, and so he ends up leaving the league. He leaves Montreal. His grandfather and his father being in the rafters, and with their numbers retired, and Danny leaves never having scored a goal in a Canadiens uniform, and he ends up out of the league 2 years later, and then going down to the States, and kind of building a separate life down south, and I think left hockey behind, and then hockey found its way to him. I found it through his boys, and there's a great story in the book where he's dressing up his sons, trying to dressing them in gear that's too big, and really trying to discourage them from playing. You can do anything you want. You don't have to play hockey, and it doesn't pass the laugh test, right? Of course, Blake then went on to, I don't know if you heard, there's a book about him, have his own career, but his brothers all played, and became a hockey family who really cements what hockey is, including to this day in Nashville, Tennessee. So, Danny, as much as any of the other characters in the book, is sprinkled throughout in a way that I think can remind people of their own fathers, especially if they played or they were raised to love the game, and that's a blessing, but it can be a burden too.
Blake, tell us about what did your dad tell you about his hockey career and what it was like to have that pressure of carrying on the legacy and playing for his dad, and what was that like for him?
Yeah, he had a really hard time with it. I mean, he always talks about the pressure that he felt, and especially when we went back to Montreal to play for my his dad and my grandfather when he was the coach of the Canadiens. Said it was like literally the weirdest thing. Also, I mean, you got to remember, like, my pappy was literally, out playing on the road. So my dad and him weren't like extremely close. Like, yeah, they would talk here and there, but they weren't really, really close. And so for the first time in his life, going back when pappy was the coach of the Canadiens, to really kind of having a relationship with him for the first time in a long time. And him being a coach and having that kind of have that separation of coach versus, this is my son, was really tough with my dad. And, I didn't really find that out until kind of later in life and kind of after hockey, frankly. I think after my dad and my pappy were very, very close. I think post hockey, they would talk all the time, and pappy would come up for all the holidays, and he would come see us for all of our birthdays and the whole thing. They lived in Atlanta. We lived in Nashville. So, but he always talked about the pressure growing up. And I think that's one of the reasons why, Sam alluded to it in his story, that he really kind of discouraged us from playing hockey. I don't think he really wanted that for us. It was definitely a lot of pressure on him.
So he didn't really want hockey for you guys, but yet, given you trying to put equipment that's too big for you on and everything else. So, but you did end up in hockey. Why was that? What was it that drew you to the game and to the sport? And you said, "Sorry, Dad, no, I'm going to play."
Yeah, I mean, dude, I remember the first time since I was a little kid stepping on the ice. I loved it more than anything in the world. And I mean, I would go to hockey practice and I'd come home and I'd shoot pucks all night. And then we'd play roller hockey and we'd switch. Someone would play goalie and the rest of us would shoot pucks. I mean, we loved it. There was, even to the day that I made the NHL, my dad would always discourage me. He's like, "Dad," he's like, "Dude, why don't you just go get a real job? Like, why are you doing all this? Like, just go have fun, live your life. Like, you're going through all this BS. Like, just go have fun." And I'm like, "Dad, I love it. That's why I like." He's like, "Okay, well, if you love it, then keep going. But like, you don't have to do this for anyone else other than yourself." And I think that, those comments my whole life, I think were a result of, because I know my dad, the pressure that he felt and all that. I personally, it's the number one question that people always ask me: did you feel pressured? I really didn't. I played for me, and, I love the game of hockey, still do. And that was it. I didn't play for anyone else other than me. I mean, I think it was a different time too. I mean, my dad, growing up at the time that he was, pappy was legitimately a superstar, and, the media would follow him around Montreal, and it was just such a different time. I mean, I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, and, pappy had been decades since anyone knew kind of who pappy was. So I didn't really have that pressure. I really didn't.
So you're as you mentioned, you grew up in Nashville, not exactly a hockey hotbed. Did you feel like you had to work a little harder than, say, some of the kids that you eventually would play against and suit up with on the national team and everything else? Did you feel like you maybe had to do a little bit extra to make it?
No, I always tell people I cheated genetically. I would say, look, at the end of the day, like I was a talented kid and I had skill, but I would tell you, like, the thing that kind of separated me, I think, from everybody else was my work ethic. I mean, that's really what did it in for me as a player. I think, I was ultra competitive, very driven, and I had a work ethic that I think kind of exceeded a lot of kids at that age. Um, and kind of led to my success my entire career because I wasn't the most talented kid on the team or on any of my teams, frankly. But I found a way to kind of be multiverse player and work hard and kind of bring ancillary value to the team any which way I could. I think that's kind of what separated me from kind of everybody else coming from a Tennessee background and what.
Yeah, so that work ethic is apparent throughout the book, Sam. You've done a good job of explaining how hard that Blake worked. Actually, here's a clip we have from a piece that was put together when you were a freshman at Wisconsin. Let's have a look at that.
All I was thinking for them was golf, the country club, and baseball, so on and so forth. In the back of my brain, it was like, they're going to get the bug here, the boys, So brought them down to the rink, and I put, like, on purpose, I put, like, extra equipment on them, skates that were too big. I was trying to discourage them coming right out of the gate. Pappy would, always be there to watch them play. They were as close as you can possibly get. Sometimes there would be, a phone call here or a phone call there, Dad would always, have his little word of advice, The same one. It was the same one for all the years. You want to score the goals, shoot the puck.
It's so weird out there, being in a Prairies uniform and actually like having a half shield on instead of a full shield now. And just another step in hockey, and hopefully I'll be in the big team one day.
So it sounds like Pappy was encouraging, wasn't he? Even though Dad was sort of discouraging, Pappy was, let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, Pappy would, we'd have these little talks, and it was just always, hey, whatever happens, don't ever get outworked. He's like, that's all I'll say to you. He's like, work ethic will win all day long. He's like, don't you ever get outworked. He's like, there's going to be days you go to the rink, you don't want to play, you don't want to do this, you don't want to lift, you don't want to run, He's like, those are the days you got to double it down and just like work as hard as you possibly can and give it your all, because those are the days you get better. And that was his biggest thing was, I think Pappy would see me play and whatnot and always comment on, hey, you got the skill to make it. Now it's all about, doing the right things in life and putting the time in and the work in to get there. And, I think that was he was one of the guys that kind of really drilled that into me, along with, I was very fortunate to have some of the coaches that I had growing up that kind of reiterate that all throughout my career. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's ultimately, why I made it. So
the decision to go to Wisconsin, not necessarily an easy choice. Tell us what drew you to Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was I was pretty much my whole life wanting to go to Michigan. Growing up in the South, we got the handful of Michigan State games, the national championship games on ESPN, and everyone wanted to have the stripes in their helmets, which is so corny to think about. But in hindsight, as a kid, it's just, that's kind of what you wanted. And when it kind of came time to go down that path, whether we go to the National Team Development Program or go major junior, I mean, we didn't even know anything about college hockey really, other than I knew the Michigan Stripes and they were always the best team or best program. And, we met with the Brampton Battalion and Stan Butler and a couple other OHL teams. My dad was like, hey, you got to go. Yeah, let's go here kind of thing. I was like, well, Dad, let's just check out what this National Team Development Program is about. And let's check out what college is about. And, to fast forward, Michigan, Red Berenson was a dear friend of my grandfather's, who was a coach at the time of the Wolverines. And, I walked into his office. I was like, hey, Red, I'm ready to sign my deal and come to you. After I obviously went to the National Team Development Program. I said, hey, let's go. And he's like, you got to play better. And I got to see you play more. I can't offer you a scholarship just yet. And I was kind of taken back. I was like, wait a minute. And, I had hit a couple bumps in the road in my first year at USA. So, but there was one school that was there the whole time, and that was Wisconsin. No matter if I was playing well, playing poorly, the whole thing. And I said to myself, man, if I have a downturn in my career at Wisconsin, am I just going to get abandoned, kind of like these other coaches did to me, or are they going to stick with me? And, that kind of propelled me to go look at Wisconsin and really take a harder look at them and see, is this the place for me? And I think, once I went there and saw it, I was like, man, this is a no-brainer. They got a, great education, great coach, great staff, great history, a great line of NHL players and alumni that have been there. It's a big family. And I think, they'd stuck with me since the very first time. Marco Siki was the assistant coach there, recruiting me at the time. No matter how I played at the national level room, he'd always encourage me. And, then the last step was, which I think, 100% totally solidified it, was my coach at the National Development Program was John Hines, who learned under Mike Eaves, who was the head coach of Wisconsin at the time. Same system, same style of play. They thought about the game and how to win the same way. Good structure, hardworking, high character, great goaltending. Defense wins championships is their slogan, and then have a great power play. And that was kind of my, that fit my mold. Perfectly. And so that was kind of the exclamation point on my decision. It was kind of an easy one at that juncture.
Yeah, things have a way of working out for a reason. It's interesting because you talk about Mike Eaves and earlier Badger Bob Johnson. When I was working at Lethbridge, Alberta, in the early '80s, and the Flames held their training camp there one year I was there, and I remember interviewing Badger Bob Johnson and Mike Eaves, and
Yeah.
interesting that Wisconsin connection came about. You also had some success, of course, with the development program, as you mentioned. A gold medal at the under 18 championships. How tell us about that experience?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, the day you walk in the National Development Program, the first thing they start off is that we're here to win the world, the gold medal in U17 and U18. And really the U18 is the big one. And, that's what it's about. It's about team. It's not about individuals. It's not about getting drafted in the first round. It's about winning a gold medal for your country. And, so that's what you're really kind of working towards every single day. Really, the regular season and stuff to them really doesn't matter. It's all about these international tournaments and bringing home gold medals, whether it's Four Nations or World Championships, et cetera, World Juniors, et cetera. And, we were birth year 88, 87 year, which was just an absolute stacked team with Jack Johnson, Phil Kessel, and, the likes. They won it. They won the gold medal, the U18 gold medal, the year I was on there as U17 team. And we just saw kind of what those guys went through, what they had to do to win it all, the grind time, just all the above. And then to kind of piggyback off that, to see kind of what it took. And then kind of step in those shoes the next year and win back-to-back gold medals. And, our team was, we had Eric Johnson, Patrick Kane, but outside of that, we were a bunch of hardworking, we were talented guys, but we were a bunch of hardworking, fast-paced, in-your-nose, really detailed, defensive structured hockey sprinkled in with an unbelievable power play with Keener and EJ. So it wasn't like we were like the U17 team. It was an entirely different makeup of guys. So we went in the World Championships, kind of like middle of the road ranked. Czech Republic had Yuri Tulusti, and Canada had, Jonathan Toews and a bunch of, superstars. Finland had, Riku Elenius, who was the first round pick to Tampa Bay Lightning as a goalie that stood in his head every game. We were kind of like middle of the road ranked to win it. And we went in there and just played incredible hockey, team hockey, hard nose in your face. And, Gainer got his tucks for us to kind of put us over the top. But it was an incredible experience just to grow with these guys for 2 years of being a bunch of young kids that left home at a young age. And, we were essentially a band of brothers for 2 straight years to go and win the ultimate prize of what we're, courting for. And the first team to do it back to back, along with the U17 87 group. It's something I'll never forget for sure.
Sam, there's a little surprise that happened after that game in the book. You referred to that. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, totally. And I just want to say too that part of what's been so fun about not writing this book, but getting it out in the world is that I thought we'd go to Canada and talk about Canadian the great Canadian teams, and I went up to Montreal last year to do some book signings, and Blake and I have done some Canadian media, and obviously here on the show today, and everybody wants to talk about the NTDP and NCAA, and I mean I get it, right? USA Hockey's having a moment that it's never had, and it was the it was the teams that Blake was just describing that cemented it. There was no guarantee that the NTDP was going to continue to exist. And it had started in the late 90s, and there was some real trench warfare as far as whether it was going to stick around, and if it was too much of an investment in a small group of guys, and put them up for the year, and have essentially 44 players that you're putting all the eggs in one basket, and it took those back-to-back U18 gold medals, and then took the 2004 World Junior gold medal, which Mike Eves coached that team, and to say, hey, this works. There's proof of concept, and some unbelievable coaches, including Jeff Jackson, who had won multiple national championships and then went on to coach at Notre Dame, came through and then left, and felt they were not well served. And the thing was hanging on by a thread, and so it's amazing for Blake, and he's got this gold medal on his wall, and it's a hell of a chapter in the book. But I think people, it's really understanding that from this fairly ragtag conceptual program came the ability to win, and then continue to win, and then to this day really be expected to win. So, and then prompt me, Joe, because I'm still on cup of coffee number one today about what happens after that gold medal.
Yeah.
So remind me again what happens in my own book. Yeah.
Well, there's a visitor in the dressing room, and a guy who wasn't expected to be there, and he showed up. Yeah.
Thank you. There was a player on that U18 team who had suffered a horrible injury and had taken a skate to the neck, and there was this was on a game that predated the international tournament, and real concerned that he he had to
We
be
seem
rushed
to
to
have
the
lost your
hospital.
audio. Is that me, Vic, or is that Sam?
I can hear him.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. It suffered this horrible injury, and was not expected to travel with the team. Was never expected to play again, and the boys come back in, and they're singing "We Are the Champions," and they're living it up and having the time of their lives, and here comes their teammate in street clothes and in a jersey, and it's just mobbed, and is really a moment to say, here's a guy who could have lost his life playing a game he loved, and instead he's back, and he's back with his brothers, and they get to put a gold medal around his neck too.
So around this time, their college careers winding up. There's the NHL lockout happens. Was that advantageous or not, would you say, Blake? The changes that came about as a result of the NHL lockout.
Sorry, you broke up there. Say it one more time about the NHL lockout. I didn't hit the first part.
Its changes came about in the league as a result of the lockout. Did that suit your game? Was that advantageous for you?
It was kind of for me personally. No, not really. I mean, if you think about kind of the first lockout with it was kind of the big player that transitioned to the small player, and then I had size. I wasn't like an overly skilled guy. I wasn't a power play guy. I was a I was a Brendan Morrow type player that would, I played in front of the net on the power play. I was scrappy, could win faceoffs. I could play wing. I could play penalty kill. I'd drop down, take a puck in the face if I needed to, and block a shot. I'd play goalie if you'd let me. So I mean, I don't think so. I was kind of, I was a rugged kind of rough player and would kind of do whatever it took to kind of get it done. So the lockout wasn't I think for guys like Patrick Kane, and even Kaner probably wouldn't, but just the smaller statute skilled player was really what the lockout changed. I mean, the NHL wanted to get more skill, more goals, more entertainment, and deter more fighting, out of the game. So no, I would say not really.
Sam, any comment on that and your opinion on what transpired?
Yeah, I mean, Blake and I are the same age, and so I think one of the really amazing parts of writing this book, and we mentioned at the top how I approached Blake and we didn't know each other before I started this project, was you don't know that history is history while you're living it, right? It's just your life. You wake up every day and you do it, and if you play hockey, you play hockey. If you work, you go to work, or whatever it is, and you certainly don't understand that bigger changes that are above you and may have an impact that affects your life, affects in this case the game of hockey, and you end up living history in real time. And so that's absolutely right. I mean, it was a transition from the clutch and grab era, and this really offensively depressed game of hockey that had come up through the 90s and pioneered by the New Jersey Devils and all the rest of it, and a desire to increase that entertainment value, but also to control costs. And so when they put the CBA in place after the lockout, they needed cheaper players. They needed guys who could be fast and who weren't going to cost very much. And so they started to leave the NCAA ranks earlier and earlier. And you had really the rise of the one and dones. You had guys who were going to come in, who were going to play, and then when they were done with their college season, they were going to the NHL. And Kyle Turris came in as a first-round draft pick and highly touted prospect in Blake's junior year or sophomore year, and was exactly that. When Kyle was done playing his last game, he got on a plane and he put on a different jersey. He wasn't a student athlete in the sense that we had come to think of it at the time, and so Blake was really the last of the 4-year greats. Somebody who took his time, built his way there. Really, I remember calling Mike Eaves and John Hines and having these interviews, and I was ready to go. Okay, Blake Geoffrion, greatest player you ever saw, right? And they said not a chance. They said that was a guy who had to work for every inch, and we spoke about it before, but he did. Blake had that work ethic. He was the guy, and maybe a little bit sick and twisted, but practice would end and they go home and shower, and he'd go back to the rink and shoot pucks, and so it really was that 4-year growth trajectory, but there was something romantic about it, about the fact that when everybody else was leaving and everybody else was coming to use the program for what they needed it for, which is a lot of development, super heavy on practice and skill building, and less on a packed schedule. They would get it, and then they would go on to make their money in the pros. And Blake stayed, and he over time became the player who would win the Hobey Baker, best player in college hockey, and a senior, a 4-year player, a captain, American born at one of the most storied programs in college hockey, just coming off its 6th national championship and the national championship run that Blake led as a senior. So, was the game right for him when he ended up getting to the NHL? That's part of the book. Without the opportunity to really understand, with that injury, what might have become, it's hard to say, but at least at the collegiate level, Blake was a player that guys in their 20s talked about as if they were guys in their 50s remembering their 20s, right? Because he was such a throwback and a vintage in a way that embodied yesterday's game.
Yeah, so you become Captain Blake in year 3. Um, keeping and you kept on improving. As we, again, we talk about that work ethic. Just keep working and working and going above and beyond. Was it always like going to be a 4-year deal for you? Was it always going to be, I'm going to do this. I want my degree, et cetera, or what?
No, it was a year by year approach. I mean, every year I would at the end of the year, okay, where am I at? How did I do? What do I need to prove in? How do I feel about going to the next level? Do I think I'm ready? Am I ready? And I think every year, freshman year I scored 2 goals. Definitely not ready after that. Sophomore year I scored 15. Played better, but still was just physically immature, and probably, frankly, was still a little immature off the ice as well. Junior year was the year that I had a lot of responsibility as a captain, and had a good year points wise. We had a really good year as a team, and I felt like that was the year that I was like, all right, maybe I'm going to go. I had talked to the National Predators about just kind of where their head was, what they thought. They thought I was ready to go. They were indifferent though. They're like, hey, there's no rush here. You tell us when you're ready. You'll know when you know. And Paul Fenton, who was the AGM at the time, was kind of like, hey, if you're not 100%, you should probably just stay. And Paulie is still a dear friend of this day, and really kind of was more like a mentor than he was anything else. And ultimately, I looked at like our roster. I had 2 cousins, or I had one cousin that played in the MLB and left Clemson after his freshman year and never went back, never got his degree. And he would call me all the time and be like, "Hey, get your degree. You just never know what can happen in this world. Protect your downside. Like, go, just stay in school. It's the best time of your life." Blah blah blah. And that combined with probably I was on the fence 50-50 whether to leave, and then what really kind of solidified is that we had a hell of a team coming back, and a lot of young guys that were going to be 1 year older, and Jake Gardner, Ryan McDonough, Brendan Smith, Cody Golubev, John Ramage, Derek Stepan, Craig Smith, to name a couple. I mean, right there I was like, what? I think we got a chance to make a run at this thing, and I'm going to come back and have a time. And I only needed a handful of credits to graduate, so kind of second half of the year was kind of a breeze for me academically. So I was just going to, go back, really focus on the team and winning, and give a run at it. And those are the kind of the 3 components that really kind of pushed me to stay. And I'm glad I did.
Well, it certainly worked out. Okay, so trip to the national championship, and of course, the Hobey Baker Award, handed out at the Frozen Four in Detroit, April 9th, 2010. What was that moment like, and were you surprised?
I was shocked. I didn't even know what like, in all honesty, I didn't think there was anywhere in hell I was winning it, if I'm being completely honest. Gustav Nyquist and Bobby Butler had way better statistics than me. But the one thing I think that kind of separated me from everybody else was, Hobey Baker Award's not just about the leading score. It's about, on the ice, off the ice. And I say this in a humble way. I do think that, I think my teammates would agree. I do think that I was a huge part of that team to get everyone to perform the way they did, and to kind of really push everyone and kind of solidify. I mean, I did it all. I penalty killed. I led the I think the country in power play goals, second in goals in the country. I had over 60. I think I led the country in faceoff percentage. I was a captain for 2 years. Hell, I fought my own teammates in practice to make sure that they were, playing at their ability. So
you got to buy the book, like don't ruin that story.
Yeah.
So
say something for the book.
Yeah, exactly. So look, I think it was just the Hobey Baker Award is also about, encompasses the person off the ice, and I'd started a couple of charities and did a lot of charity work during my senior year, and I think it was a holistic approach. I think I was a unique winner. But if you really knew me and knew our team, I think it was take a step back and think about it that way now when I'm a little bit more mature. yeah, I think I do. I think I did deserve it. So.
Right. And you get a chance to look back on it. Well, here's what you had to say at the time. Let's listen to a clip. The following news conference.
I wanted to have a chance to win a national championship since I got here day one at the University of Wisconsin. That was my goal in mind, and my senior class's goal in mind. And I wanted to accomplish that. And looking back on my decision to come back, I knew that we had a good team, big in depth, big, strong veteran team, and I knew we had something special brewing when everyone pretty much stayed. So. I'm pumped, so happy for to win this award, and I can't thank my teammates enough for that, because I definitely wouldn't be here without them, and those are my brothers in that locker room, and I would do anything for them, and they would do anything for me. My dad's in the Hockey Hall of Shame. Sorry, Dad. And then my two grandfather and great grandfather are in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and I don't think that this can even compares to what they have accomplished in their hockey careers, but I love my family to death. I'm very proud of what they've done. I can't thank my mom and dad enough, and my brothers, and for all the support and all my family that's out there watching. And I love them to death, and I'm very happy.
So, is your dad okay with the job?
Oh yeah, I still give it to him to this day. Actually, the funniest thing was, so the running joke in the family, and Sam knows this, is, my great grandfather and grandfather in the Hall of Fame, and me and my dad are across the street in the Hall of Shame, and yeah, that's been our running joke in the family the whole time. And so when I got inducted into the Hall of Fame at Wisconsin, not the NHL Hockey Hall of Fame, but at least it's a Hall of Fame,
right? Sure.
I said, "Hey, Dad, looks like I just got upgraded," and he's like, "No. I got inducted in my elementary school Hall of Fame."
He beat you to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, what was it like to become the first Badger to win the Hobey Baker?
Yeah, I mean, it was man, it was unbelievable. I was shocked. Again, I was shocked. There's been some incredible talent that's gone through there, and the fact that I was the first one to win was kind of like, kind of crazy to think about. But it was a huge honor, and all the alumni there, we're all really close, and they reached out and said congrats and the whole thing. So it was spectacular. I mean, it was awesome. It really was.
So after that, it's didn't win the national title, but it was off to the pros. Just came short in your bid to win the national title, but sorry, just gotta. So this is for your first professional goals, a quick snapper, your first as a pro. That's your second game with Milwaukee Admirals. You added another and a rebound on the power play. Do you remember that night and those goals? Well, actually, now we're seeing it's your first NHL hat trick.
Yep.
This is the first period. Your centering pass goes off a Sabres player and in.
Yep.
And then it's 2.5 minutes to go in the third. You head to the net and jam it home. And then in the capper, the shot comes in from the point that you're going to rip past Ryan Miller to tie the game. First NHL hat trick following a couple of goals we saw from the Milwaukee Admirals. So tell us about experiencing these highs for you. Here's the winner.
Yeah, I mean, first NHL goal was in Edmonton, assisted by Suits, which was kind of funny. And then, this game here was, scored a hat trick, probably three of the most ugly goals you'll see. That one was actually nice.
That was good.
But they don't ask how, they ask how many, right? And the thing that was cool about this game is, Barry Trotz, on the bench was like, comes over to me and is like, "Hey, let's get your energy going. We're gonna put you on a higher line. Like I need you going here. I need someone to pick this team up, and I need some energy." So me, Doobie, and Willie, played a great game together, and halfway through, like pretty much like it was like the first period or whatnot. From then on, we were just awesome, and I think I played. That was the most match I think I played in an NHL game, just because I was going good that night and whatnot. But my dad was there with all of his buddies from his senior, his beer league team. They were playing in a tournament up in Ontario. They drove down to Buffalo to watch me play that night, and so my dad got to see the whole thing, which was pretty spectacular with him and all of his buddies and whatnot. Then to score a hat trick was just like the icing on the cake. a memory again. I'll never forget. So it was incredible, it really was.
What was it like though? I mean, here you are, the fourth generation getting called up, playing in the NHL, putting on that jersey for the first time, that Preds jersey. What was the feeling, for you?
Yeah, I mean, first game was in Dallas. Flight got delayed from Milwaukee into Dallas. I slept like absolute dog crap. The next morning, we had pregame skate, took a nap, and then first NHL game. The story I love to tell is took the face off and there was like a penalty or two at the beginning of the game. I didn't get on the ice for 6 minutes of the game, and there was a face off in the offensive zone, and I was going up against Steve Ott, and he was playing with Tom Waddell and Adam Burish at the time as the line against the Dallas Stars, and I'm really really close with Brian or Adam Burish. He comes in the circle and he's like, "Hey Otter, I got this one." And I look at Burr. I'm like, "Burr, hey, let me have this one, right?" He's like, "Oh, for sure, dude, for sure, 100%." He's like, "Hey, dude, welcome to NHL, man. Congrats, the whole thing." Puck drops. He snaps one back on me. He goes, "Not a chance." we skate off. It was pretty funny. So that was kind of my welcoming moment. But that's just so surreal, man. I mean, growing up as a kid, waiting for that moment, and dreaming of that moment for it to finally come to fruition is just there's no words.
And then of course the trade. What went through your mind when David Poile gave you the news that you were heading to Montreal? What was your
I wanted to
yeah?
choke slam David Poile on his desk, but no. I was pretty frustrated that I was getting traded, and just the iterations of what happened in Nashville were kind of out of my control a little bit. But when I said, "David, where am I going?" He's like, "Well, you're going home." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're going back to Montreal Canadiens." I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" I'm like, "No way." So my attitude adjusted pretty quickly. I was super pumped and jacked up to go back to kind of where it all started for me and the family. And again, another one of those moments you're just like, what? How in the world is that happening? Like, that is nuts. Like, what are the chances? And I called my dad, and me and my dad would always joke around with each other. And I called my dad and I told him, and he's like, "Dude, shut up. Like, what time's the game tonight? I'm going to tune in and watch it. Is this one online or
Yeah.
whatever?" No, Dad, I'm being dead serious. He's like, yeah, I'll talk to you later. Text me what time the game is. He hangs up. I'm like, and I call him back. I'm like, "Dad, I'm dead serious, dude. It's going to be on TSN in about 20 minutes, probably." He's like, "Oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me." So again, I was one of those like, "Oh my goodness, like, just can't even get over it." I mean, how is this happening? What are the chances, And
Yeah.
but yeah, we were all juiced up. It was pretty awesome.
So your dad was good with it. He wasn't worried about the pressure that would come with that.
Nah,
Yeah.
no, he was all good with it. No issues.
Well, here we go. So this is we get some video of your first goal as a Hab. Interesting,
Yep,
of course, you're wearing number 57.
totally.
Grandpa's and great grandpa's numbers combined. And there you go. First goal. It fourth generation to score for, or the fourth generation to play for the Habs. Peter Roberto Luongo. Pretty good goalie. What was that moment like for you?
Yeah, it was again, I got chills like right when first of all, I couldn't believe Louis got that puck across to me. Like, how this went through BX side got to me and how I put it
Ah,
in. One of
right.
those goalie like blacked out. I'm not kidding you. And I had actually a similar goal against Lou when I played for Nashville. And so it was kind of funny how it all went down. But yeah, no, it was a surreal moment again, man. It's like one of those moments you're just like, how in the world? Like, I'm not even kidding you. I didn't even see that puck. I'm not kidding you. I just had my stick on the ice.
Wow.
I saw it like right at the last second and just put a little wood on it and it went in the net. Honestly, I was trying to actually put it short side and went the middle of the net, which, again, I didn't even see it. So it was, it's just one of those moments like, man, it was incredible.
I don't think Elaine Vigneault could believe it either. You see him shaking his
I
head.
love that. I love that clip. And Vignot's just looking at that like unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm like, BX
No.
had totally blew it, and Blake, like, right place, right time, right?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, Louis ripped that at me. It was like a snapper right across the way. It was a bomb.
It was
So
pretty. It really was pretty. So management change in Montreal. Things didn't go too well. How'd that affect
yeah, I mean, it's a little unfortunate, kind of the whole thing that happened with Pierre Gauthier going out and Marc Bergevin coming in. I think long term it would have been great for me, but the Burge was trying to recreate the culture in Montreal and try to bring in um, kind of bring in his guys, his staff, his coaching staff, the whole thing. So it was kind of this whole flip over and turnover. And I get a call. The lockout obviously happens, and Burge was adamant about me going to be a team player and stay in shape and go to the minors and continue to develop as a young guy. And he was like, "Hey, you want to be on my team? I need you to go show me you want to be on the team and be a team player." And I was like, "Hey, absolutely! Like, let's do it. Like, all good by me." And so, I go down to Hamilton and play for Sylvain Lefebvre. So.
Yeah, of course. And then you're playing for the minor league team, and we're going to show some video of the incident. Like, so I don't know if you want to turn away or whatever you want, but
Oh, good.
it's
Oh,
so
good.
you're playing with Hamilton at the Bell Center. You're racing along the boards. Vicious hit by JP Cote. Tell us about the hit and what transpired after that.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it was. I remember the puck got turned over. They were changing. The D-man were changing. They were coming off the bench, and I had, I saw him out of the side of my eye, and I thought he was gapping up. So I started to speed up, and then when I saw that he was coming for the hip check, I tried to jump out of the way, and it was too late at that juncture. Just an unfortunate situation would happen with again, you talk about what are the chances that my dad just has a tournament scheduled in Toronto and he can watch me play in Buffalo and score a hat trick. What are the chances I get traded to Montreal Canadiens from the National Pros with my hometown team? First pick in 06 with them. Played really well. Had an injury that was unfortunate. And then this happens. I mean, I could tell you things that have happened in my life, since the hit that are just like, wow, that is crazy how that all came about. 1 in a billion, but what had happened, and there's two ways you can look at it. Either you can dwell on it and oh, poor me, or reflect on it, understand it, put your big boy britches on, and move on. And so I think I have two kind of things that I really wish for, not regrets, but I think that I wish I really would have known what would have happened. I really do wish, I would have known what, if I would have stayed in hockey and that happened, that injury doesn't happen. Like, what does my career look like? I think about all that all the time, but that, and, I always wanted to go play in Europe with my buddies and get that experience. But I mean, outside of that, man, look, I always reflect on the positive. I'm a real positive person. I mean, look at the things that the game of hockey has given me. I mean, I'm a pretty lucky guy. From great friendships to my wife to an education to an NHL game, a hat trick, a lot of people and friends that I've met throughout my career. It's molded me as a person on and off the ice. I've learned, the phrase "adversity only makes you stronger" and understand what that truly means, and have the maturity to kind of go throughout life to apply that every day. And I'm nothing but gratefulness towards the game and towards kind of what happened. And it is what it is.
What were the effects of the hit? Like what happened after, and what did you have? What did you go through? Like, what was it like for you?
Yeah, it's tough, man. I took about a full year to kind of recover. I had suffered 13 documented concussions in my career prior to this. Let me tell you, I've suffered a lot more than that. But it was some rough times. I would start every day in the shower with all the lights off in the house and wait till the hot water ran out, get out of the shower, and then get dressed for the day and just kind of lay around. I'd suffered a brain injury, a craniotomy. I had a plate and 5 screws put in, over 600 stitches internally and externally. So a lot of bad headaches, a lot of pain, but, took me about a full year to recover, and it was some dark times there. Not going to lie to you. But battled my way through, and, feeling good these days.
In the book, you talked, Caitlin, when you met, I think Sam referred to her as her interest in hockey might be about the same if Blake was into stamp collecting or trout fishing. So, so she wasn't a big hockey fan, but it sounds like she was a massive support for you, and of course still there, and obviously, and um, What you mentioned about the dog? Tell us about the dog.
Oh yeah. So I mean, like, look, like I said, I was going through some dark times, and kind of looking at some alternative medicines and whatnot. And I went and saw this Dr. Julian Bales in Chicago here, and he was like, "Hey, I got one other thing I want you to do." I'm like, "What's that?" He's like, "I need you to get a dog." I'm like, "What? Get a dog? I can't even take care of myself." He's like, "That's the point." He's like, every day you got to take care of that dog and make sure that and the genesis behind it is essentially to take your mind off of all the bad thoughts you're having and all the things you're laying around and thinking about and this, that, and the other. And man, I'll tell you, that little dog saved my life. His name was George. He was a little French bulldog, and the name, it comes from when I was in the hospital in Montreal. There was a lot of reporters that came in and kept trying to take pictures of me or find out or question me or whatever. So they moved me in Montreal Journal under an alias, and the name was George Benson. So when we named the dog, I was like, "Hey, we got to keep George in the family." So we named him George. So that's kind of the story behind the dog. And George passed about a year and a half ago. But that guy was saved my life, frankly. And then to just kind of reference Kate, and yeah, Kate liked watching me play and our friends play, but she hated how aggressive I played, and when I would hit, or if I got into a random fight or whatever, she hated it, and she'd always yell at me, the whole thing. And but she still likes going to hockey games today, and we'll go to one every once in a while here in Chicago. But yeah, she hates the physical aspect of hockey.
What is the you had a little
I'm
bit
so
of
sorry.
you stayed.
Sorry, Joe. I need to hop in a second. So yeah, you can keep going with Blake, but I do need to hop off. So.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Sam. Any final thoughts before you say goodbye?
Yeah, I'm by the book. I think Blake forgot to thank his biographer in that list. But maybe next interview, Blake. No, really, it is. It was a privilege to tell this story, and I think it's hard. The reason I wrote it down is because it's hard to do it justice telling in one sitting. There's so many layers and such a richness to it, and so whatever your interest is in the game and however you come at this, I think the name is maybe what led you to it and why you're watching this interview, but I think the book will take you someplace else. So really, really appreciate you having me, Joe, and Blake. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Yeah, Sam.
Yeah.
It's good seeing you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sam. Yeah, and I
Take
just
care,
we
gentlemen.
will wrap this up pretty quick. Like, I just want to ask you, you went into you got into you did you were involved in hockey for a while after the injury, and you got back in and ended up being an assistant GM with the Panthers. How do you feel about uh, you know the Panthers winning the cup? Do you feel like you had a piece of that?
Maybe a little bit, but not really. I mean, Billy Zito and the guys there have done an incredible job. I mean, I had a very small hand in that. But I wouldn't say by any means like I deserve anything or whatnot. Going down the path of becoming an assistant GM and all that was. It was tough to step away. I mean, I kind of did it for family reasons. I didn't really want to go into that life where you're kind of on the road every day, all day. And, um, you know, I'm a big family guy. I want to be home with the kids and the girls. And, it's just a tough life. It really is. But I'm really thrilled and so happy for Billy and the guys down there for winning the cup. I mean, Billy Zito is probably one of the hardest working guys that I know. He's wicked talented and wicked smart. And I always knew Billy would have success. And I knew that we would win probably pretty quick there with just the core that we had, overlaid with some of the guys I thought we could bring in and kind of the things that we could do. You got Rick Dudley, Paulie Fenton there. I mean, kind of supporting Billy, Gregory Campbell, the likes. I mean, those guys, have been around a long time. They've had a lot of success in all the organizations they've been in. Soupy's got multiple cups. So, it was just a matter of time before those guys, won the cup. So I'm really happy for them. And, yeah.
Well, okay, so you played for the Habs, played for the Preds, grew up watching the Preds. You're with the Panthers organization. You're living in Chicago. any team that you sort of follow now? Is there a team that you're sort of affiliated with that you feel an affiliation to?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I still kind of watch my buddies. I watch Nashville, I watch Montreal. I follow Kaner still to this day pretty closely. In Detroit. Anytime Colorado or Edmonton's playing, I'm going to tune in probably, or Vegas. I mean, I think those teams are really entertaining to watch. I think Florida's entertaining to watch. I mean, I think especially the makeup of how Florida's built. I love. I mean, that's just kind of, I love their team and their makeup. But not really. I mean, I really kind of follow my buddies still that are left playing, and then I just want to watch a good hockey game. So that's about it.
Another former Badger's doing pretty well with the Habs, Cole Caulfield. What do you think of his game?
No, he's playing great. I mean, look, I think bringing in Marty St. Louis and having him as a mentor, as a small guy in the NHL, and kind of how he made it and kind of made the impact he did, and to get Cole back on the tracks and playing to his capability and putting him into positions to succeed, and him taking full advantage of that has been great for his career, great for the Habs, great for Marty St. Louis and the likes. I think they've got a good core there. I think they just now need to let these kids mature a little bit and grow into it. And, I think the future is bright for Montreal for sure.
Yes, finally, so we're partnered with a group here. It's called Believe, Become, Be You, a mentorship program for kids 10 to 17, inspired by Sean Gindy and Papa Jack. What's the message you would have for any kids who might be struggling to find their way in today's world?
Yeah, I get asked this a lot, as a young kid, growing up, I always think back, like I had two really, really good friends and really, really good buddies that we always would do everything together, talk to everything about, lean on, I think the punchline is just lean on the people around you to really help you and figure out what you want to do. And, every decision that I ever made in my life, I always took a blank sheet of paper out and I put pros and cons at the top, positive or negatives, and wrote them all down. And it usually always came out of exactly what I should do, with my life or with that decision, or, it's simple, but I think sometimes people get caught up in all of the ancillary things and too many people's opinions and whatnot, instead of reflecting on what do you truly personally want. And if you just write it down and take a look, usually, it's a kind of a slap in the face what you should do. So I think lean on people around you, ask a lot of questions, no dumb questions in this world, and write it down when you're trying to make a tough decision of what you should do or what you want to do. And usually it'll tell you exactly what. And then I think lastly, the third thing would be exactly what we've talked about in this call, of kind of who I am at my core, which is, don't ever get outworked. I mean, whatever you want to do in this, you can do anything in this world you want, but the thing that starts with is work ethic. If you don't have that, you're never going to be successful. And success doesn't mean money. It means happiness. So those are the three things that I would say probably.
Yeah, that's awesome. Putting your head on the pillow at night and enjoying who you are, right?
Yeah,
and that's a good thing. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you being on the program, Blake. Once again, the book is Legacy on Ice. Blake Geoffrion and the Fastest Game on Earth, along with Sam Jefferies. Thank you both for being on here. Great read, Blake. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Have a good day and a good weekend.
All right, you too. So when we come back, how a visualization coach and meditation helped Andrew Harris get through a deep, dark period of his life. Back in a flash.
Addiction Rehab Toronto, Toronto's #1 alcohol and drug treatment center, saving lives, reuniting families. The only treatment center in the province to offer medical detox, treatment, sober living, and lifetime aftercare all in one place. Our unique and specialized programs are designed to equip our clients with the tools to successfully lead a life of dignity, respect, and purpose. Let us help save your life or your loved one's life. Call today for more information or to facilitate an intervention. 1-855-787-2424 or visit addictionrehabtoronto.ca.
2019, unbelievable season. 1,380 yards rushing, 529 receiving yards, and that included missing a couple of games with suspension, which was, if I recall, a bit of an unusual situation, which didn't really fit for you, did it?
Yeah, no, yeah, I got tested for positive for performance enhancing substance, which was really tough. I mean, throughout my career, especially through the 2016 to 2019, I was playing really well and got tested immensely. Like I think I got tested probably over 30 times in that 3 year period or 4 year period. And that year alone, I had 6 tests and actually one 8 days before the positive test too. So when this substance came up in my in my test, I did everything I could to find the resource or find the source of it. Sorry, and ultimately fell short. But again, you're playing unreal. At that point, I was the MOP candidate for the season, and I actually played 2 games going through this appeal process, and that was the hardest part for me more than anything because I knew what was coming. I knew that I was kind of hitting dead ends with all the research and sending samples away of all the things I was ingesting and just hoping that something would come up that I could kind of clear it. Either way, I was still going to get suspended. But having something to kind of clear your name was a big motivator for me because again I've worked so damn hard to get to where I've been at, and you're finally, you're finally crushing it, and you're doing the great things, and of course, something comes up when you're at the top of the mountain. Yeah, it really put me in a really dark space. I was in a marriage at that point that wasn't the best marriage either, and my friend circle around me was just kind of crumbling, and life was just really in all aspects just like down in the dumps, and really just going down the toilet. And then yeah, we win the Grey Cup and get MVP and all the great things with that, and then boom, COVID hits, and it was really just a really dark place for me, and one that took a lot to get out of and years to get out of, to be honest with you. But again, adversity shows your true colors. There was a point where I was having suicidal thoughts and didn't want to wake up the next morning, and was just really depressed and alone, and just lots of heavy drinking and isolating myself from the world, and yeah, it was a scary place for me. Really a place that I would never want to wish on anyone. But I was thankful to have a chosen few people that were kind of in my corner and help get me out of that rut. Along with just going and talking to professional help and I think the biggest thing with going and talking to the sports psychologist was just unpacking and unloading, all my emotions and feelings, and I literally just cried. I just cried but my first session was an hour and a half, and I think I probably cried for an hour and 29. I think she asked me one question, and I just flushed everything out, and one of the things that I always kind of talked about and thought, and she's like, pull up an old picture of yourself, playing football and the joy that it gave you. And you need to go find that again and find that fire in your belly that got you here. And, accept that this is here, it's here to stay. And there's nothing you can do about the past. All you can do is put your best foot forward and getting to being back to the man that you were, and overcoming the things you went through.
A lot of us go through the dark times, those tough times, and having this, it's just, having that ability, trusting and reaching out, and it can make such a difference, just speaking up, let people know where you're at. And then, you realize that there's a lot more help than I remember being in a dark place and not believing that there's any way out. But, you reach out, you talk to some people and you find that there is a way out. There is a light at the end of that tunnel.
And I think too, as athletes, and especially in the football world, it's such a this mantra. You need to be tough. You have to wear this mask and have this facade, and it's really tough for men, I think in particular, but male athletes to let that guard down and be vulnerable. And it is scary because if you show that you're mentally unstable or you're mentally weak at a moment in time, then they might not have that trust in you that you can go and perform. So, I mean, there's lots of risk with that. But I mean, at the end of the day, what's more important, being on the field or being healthy in your everyday life? And I think, that's a tough balance that a lot of athletes would argue that, being a god on the field or the ice or the court or whatever the sport they play is the most important thing in the world, because when you're in that state and you're killing it, you feel untouchable. But at the end of the day, we're all humans and we're not untouchable. We're not invincible. And we do have life after football, life after sport. We do have to go home to our families, and we still have to, live healthy lives after we're done playing. And I think when you put that in perspective and you realize how important, these issues are, and dealing with them, when you have the access, when you have the ability to do this and still overcome it, it's definitely a lot of weight to carry. But I think it's very crucial that people hear these stories, and they can have the courage, and swallow their pride, to find the right resources and talk to someone, because it's going to make them a better athlete. It's going to make them a better father, a husband, partner, a better friend, a better son. And, it's crucial that we deal with these issues and stop burying them, because if you keep burying them, it's a slippery slope, and it can get scary for a lot of folks, for sure.
Parents, what's the biggest fear for kids 10 to 14? A future they think they can't handle. At Believe, Become, Be You, we know confidence in the future is a habit we can build. Our course doesn't just prepare kids for the future, it seeds them with skills they will use now. For a limited time, the I Believe in Me Foundation is offering the first 1,000 kids and their parents 1 year free access. This priceless opportunity will save you over $2,000. This isn't just a course. It's a journey in developing life-enhancing skills that will grow with your child, fostering gritty minds, creative futures, and better bonds. Get signed up now at BelieveBecomeBeYou.com. That's BelieveBecomeBeYou.com.
Discover the secret to timeless vitality at Renew Medical Center in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Our specialists unravel the science of aging, tailoring plans to defy its effects. Experience cutting-edge regenerative therapies such as stem cells and exosomes, addressing aging at its core.
It's a wonderful spot, and I highly recommend it for whatever you may need, whether you just want to feel better, you want to look better, have basically a quality of life, just to ramp it up a little bit as we age.
Liberate yourself from aging-related concerns, where accountability, technology, and passion for regenerative medicine converge. Begin your path to peak health and wellness with us. Schedule your appointment today at renewpv.com and elevate your quality of life. Across the street, across the country, when disaster strikes, DKI Canada is here to help. Whether it's water, fire, or wind damage, our experts respond quickly to restore your property to pre-loss condition. With cutting-edge technology and a compassionate approach, we handle emergencies like mold remediation, asbestos abatement, and more, ensuring your safety every step of the way. Your home is more than just a building. It's where memories are made. We're here to help you get back to what matters most. At DKI Canada, we're proud to restore not just property, but peace of mind. For fast, reliable service across the country, call DKI Canada or visit us online today. Hi, I'm Joe Tilley, and I want to tell you about the painting pros. Patrick and his crew recently came into my home, and they painted the walls, they added some color. It's fantastic, and I can't be more satisfied with the work they did. That crew is tremendous. They were professional, they were courteous, they were respectful, and they did a fantastic job. Look at that. Look at that color. I just can't stress enough how satisfied we truly are with Patrick and his crew. For all your painting needs, go with the pros. And we want to thank all the folks who make the show possible. These are friends, trusted business associates, all around great people. We highly recommend them all. Thank you for your support of Canadian sports. A reminder that the show is available on iTunes, Spotify, Breaker, wherever you get your podcast from. Also, check out the show on YouTube. All of our past shows are on there, clips and shorts. Like and subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. And our socials, of course, are at Joe Swiss Tilley on Instagram and X. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show on Facebook. And thanks once again to Blake Geoffrion and Sam Jefferies. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Brian Gribben Insurance Planning, helping you solidify your financial future.
At BGIP, what we do that's unique in the marketplace is we show people how to spend and enjoy their money in the early years of retirement without the fear of running out. Also, we're able to do this without you having to change financial advisors. Please look us up at bgip.ca today. And let's book a 30-minute phone call to see how we can bring value to you and your family in your planning.
Call Brian today for all your retirement needs. We did. 905-686-5678.
MNP, a leading Canadian national accounting, tax, and business accounting firm. MNP proudly serves and responds to the need of their clients in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Through partner-led engagements, MNP provides a collaborative, cost-effective approach to do business and personal strategies to help people and organizations to succeed across the country and around the world. With local offices in Oshawa, Mississauga, Burlington, and more, their team is here to support you. Visit mnp.ca today to learn more. Rooted in 60 years of tradition, Sleepy Hollow is a private golf club with a friendly community of members just minutes from Toronto. With mature trees and rolling fairways, Sleepy Hollow provides a challenging and enjoyable experience for passionate golfers. Enjoy great golf, amazing dining, and a picturesque patio second to none. Visit sleepyhollowcountryclub.com. Joe Tilley here. My wife Penny Claire and I recently took an amazing trip to Egypt and Jordan with Trip Oppo. And here are our top 10 must-dos. Last but not least, we relaxed at a luxury resort and took a dip in the famous Dead Sea. This beautiful resort was a perfect way to cap off our incredible adventure in Egypt and Jordan. After days of exploring ancient ruins and bustling markets, it was wonderful to just kick back, put on a little mud, and soak up the sun by the Dead Sea. Oh, I almost forgot to mention the amazing cuisine in Egypt and Jordan. Don't forget to try the delicious local food like mouth-watering Egyptian barbecue. And the best part is that our Trip Oppo tour includes almost all of the meals, so you can indulge in the local cuisine without worrying about opening your wallet. I would highly recommend that you book your next trip through Trip Oppo. Call them today.
Guests on Joe Tilley Sports receive a gift certificate from Classica Imports. Top of the line imported men's clothing. Check out the Classica Essential Collection now. Go to shopclassica.com.